Awesome. So if you navigate to the syllabus here, our last session on Monday we had off. So for our session 3, we are on the 22nd, and we're going to be working with a few items here, mainly the selections tools. If you'd like, there's some supplemental resources here that are pretty helpful. If you take a look at them here, these are in Photopea and not Photoshop, so you're able to pretty much copy what they're doing here in any shape or form you'd like. And if you can see here, there's various selection tools, and these give a really good overview of what they are and how to use them. But we'll be going through them together bit by bit. We'll be experimenting with them and seeing what they do. And as you can see here, there's more advanced selecting, and some of you working with photos might be familiar with the magic wand. This one's pretty universal. It's okay if you're not familiar with it though, but this is a nice way to be able to select everything in a background. And why you would want to use a magic wand is in case you wanted to crop out the background of an image. And after we do all these selections, I'll show a cool little trick that you can use for your capstone project 1 that can make a photo really stand out. Now, if you see here, don't get too overwhelmed. There's a ton of selection tools to choose from. And again, a reoccurring theme that I want to get across in this class is that one selection tool isn't better than the other. In the projects, you're going to be asked to select items. You can select it whichever way you'd like. I'm not going to ever know how you selected it. I'm only going to know the final outcome of that selection. So don't be too concerned if you are trying to use it or if you're trying to select something with one tool. Try to swap the tool in case you get frustrated or anything. If you go into the content and then folder for new files, you'll see under session 3, and I noticed that in a few images some people didn't see these. If you see these folders like this here, you're going to need to click the small arrow. It's a little hidden sometimes, especially on smaller screens. Make sure you click that arrow that's to the left of the folder so that it opens it up for you, just to access the items inside. And inside of here we have a tools.jpg. Why don't everyone download that real quick? And then why don't we open up our Photopea? And hopefully this is big enough to work with. Great. And then you can drag those tools into your Photopea area here. It's a little blurry, but that's okay. I can zoom in a tiny bit more. Sorry, everyone. There we go. So there's a lot of tools in here with these tools as well. And again, if you'd like to use a different image, you can look up on Google Images fruits or anything that you'd like. We could work with some tools for right now, and then we can I'll show everyone how you can go and access other images after. On the left side though, to get started with our selection tools, we follow this the syllabus. We have a few tools that we're going to go over, and so why don't we start with some of the ones that are at the top. If you see here, our move tool is the tool that we worked with quite a bit. As you can see here, if I select my move tool and then I left click on my image, I'm able to drag my image around everywhere. So as you can see here, it's very useful for images to rearrange them. And underneath it, you'll notice a rectangle select tool, which has a hotkey of M. So if I press M, or if I click on it, you'll notice that I'll now have a cursor or a crossbar that I can hover over my image with. How do I use this crossbar? Well, if I hold left click and I drag, you'll see that I get a full square that's around my images here. I can make this as big or as small as I'd like. Let's just say that I made it this size, maybe right here, and I'm thinking, okay, wait, that's a bit too big for me here. I can go into edit and free transform. Let me try that one more time. Edit and free transform. And what I can do is rearrange my selection here. Now, if you'll notice, something is happening with the image that's going on, and you could always undo your selection as well. That's what I usually do if I don't get my selection right away. But there's other ways you can rearrange the type of selection that you have. So let's see here. If I select over here and I don't like how my select box looks, I can go to edit and undo, and it will undo my selection. So again, let's say I wanted to just select this paintbrush. I could go over here I don't like how that is. I can hit Control Z or Edit Undo, and then I can drag it over here. Okay, so now what's the purpose of this selection here? What's the goal of it? Well, for starters, if you notice here, once I have my select box put into my image, if I hover over my image, I'm able to get a different type of crossbar. Does everyone see how there's a few arrows? And what does this do? Well, if I hold left click on this, oops, it is. Sorry. If I hold left click on this, I'm able to move where my select box is. So again, if I don't like where it is right there, I could always kind of move it to over here. And again, these tools are very powerful and easily manipulated as well. Now, one more tool that you can use here is, let's just say again, for argument's sake, that I have a selection that I didn't want to use. I could go into my select and transform selection, and you'll notice here that I'm able to move where my select box is. So if you don't want to have to undo all the work that you did, you can simply do it. So Daisy, go right here, and let's just say I'm only selecting the roller. I have a few other images selected. I can go to select, transform selection, and then move these in. Maybe this a bit further down. And then if I hit the confirm, I'm able to get my selection box over here. Now, if I want to move this brush around in my image, what I can do is select the move tool that's above my rectangle tool. And then if I click on this selection, you'll notice that it actually kind of cuts it out from my picture. And I now have this item that I can drag around onto my page, excuse me, onto my picture. And that's what select options do. They select an area that you pick inside of your image, and you're able to drag them around. So now I have my roller, and as you can see, there's still a bit of a white background in it, but that's fine for right now. We're able to work around with this. Now, the cool thing about this selection, what you can do with it, is if you go to Edit and Free Transform, you'll notice that I'm able to drag out my selection. Of course, the quality is a bit rough. I apologize for that. So it'll be a bit pixelated, but as you can see, I can make this selection as big or as small as I'd like. So I can kind of manipulate my image in any form I'd like. I made it a bit smaller. And if I hit my check mark, I now have this other image that I'm working with. Now, if you'll notice here on my image, there's some dotted lines that are around my selection. And let's just say that I wanted to move my entire image again. Oh, excuse me. What you can do is use the move tool again as you'd like. But if you want to get rid of those dotted lines around there, you can go to select and deselect, or you can go to the shortcut Control and D at the same time, and that will deselect your selection. So again, let's just say I did all this, and you might notice when I'm doing lecture or anything, I do it very quickly. These shortcuts are pretty nice, and they save you the time or frustration of having to go to select and deselect. So just Control and D will help you deselect it there. Now, if you were keen when you were looking at this one right here, you'll notice that there's a small little drop down arrow right there. And if you right click on that one, or if you click on that arrow, you'll notice that you have two different types of selects here. And the only difference between these two is that one is an ellipse, meaning it's like a type of circle, and the other is a rectangle. So the ellipse can be really handy because I can drag out, Daisy. I could drag out a type of area that I wanted to move with. Not sure why that isn't doing that for me right now. Cool. So again, the rectangle tool and the ellipse tool are very similar, and they function the same way. And if you see here, I can go to select and transform selection again, and then I can modify how big or small my selection is. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way back up to the top, and I'm just going to reset my entire image here. We did a lot of selections there, but I'm just going to go back up to the open. And there's a few tools here that are interesting to work with. So we already kind of moved a selected area. Let's see here. And again, with these tools, it's okay if you don't get it the first time. It's very helpful to fiddle around with these guys, because once you get the grasp of it, it's much more easier to apply it to the more complex selection tools. See here. Show it's not moving. Oh, there it is. And I can, again, with the ellipse tool, or excuse me, the ellipse tool function the same way as the rectangle. Now, if you take a look at the syllabus, there's two tools here that are mentioned, the magic wand tool and the quick selection tool. And these two tools are a bit specific to certain scenarios that you'll find that are common in Photoshop. And for instance, one of them is the white background here. So let's say that I'm designing a website or something, and I wanted to cut out the background here so that these tools don't look like they're in front of, or excuse me, on top of a white table. What I can do is I can use this tool called the magic wand tool. Now the magic wand tool is located on the fourth panel. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, where there's this object selection tool, and if you right click on that, you'll see that there's a tool called magic wand. Now, if I have this magic wand tool selected, nothing obvious happens yet, but if I go ahead and click maybe somewhere that's white on my image, daisy, you'll see here, oh, that might have been my problem earlier. I didn't have my layer selected, so make sure your layer is selected. Apologies for that. You'll notice if everyone sees here that the white is all selected into my tool here. So what I can do now is if I have my move tool, I'm able to move the outlines of my images around as I'd like, and you'll see here that the tools themselves are left. There's a bit of a shadow there, but of course that's fine. The majority of the white is gone. So let me undo that really quick, and let me do select and deselect to deselect it again. And what I did is I went down to my object selection tool, right click the magic wand, and then once I have my magic wand selected, I'll make sure that my layer is selected, and then I'll click anywhere that I have a white space to do. So what does this magic wand tool do? Well, it determines the type of color on the image where you click. So for instance, this is very bright white, so I'm going to click there. And it picks every other pixel that is that type of color. So you'll notice how these are kind of shadowed, so they're a bit more gray and blacker. It's not going to select those because it's a different type of color. So what is the point of doing this now? Well, if you hit the delete button, or if you right click onto your selection area here, let me see here actually. If you go to edit and then cut there, you're able, or press the delete key on your keyboard like I'll do right here, delete, you're able to remove the background from these tools. And now you kind of have tools that might look a bit better on a website or anything. Now, does the magic wand only work with the background? No, it doesn't. Let's just say I wanted to select all the type of gray. I can click there, and as you'll notice, all the gray that are on these tools is selected as well. I'm going to deselect very quickly, and maybe I'll try to remove some of the shadows that are behind these tools. So I'm going to click right here with my magic wand. So again, with the saw, what I did there, sorry about that, because I just did a lot there during the explanation. If you go into the, see, I'll keep track of if I'm, thanks everyone, thanks for letting me know. If you go to the magic wand area here in the fourth one, if you right click on there, and if you hit quick selection, you'll notice that it brings up a type of tool that's like a brush tool that, oh, you can't hear me so? Oh no, a bit too quiet. Let's see here. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Great. So with the quick selection tool here, it acts like a brush that you can drag out onto your image and it will actually select the image that you're dragging it on. So if you see here, instead of using this type of box to select this saw, as you can see here, if I use a type of square, it's going to grab a bit of that wrench. What I can do is grab the quick select tool, which is right clicked on the fourth item quick selection, and I can simply drag out my tool and you'll notice that it selects my saw perfectly. And now with my saw, if I want to rearrange it, you might be thinking, what's the point of me selecting the saw? If you go to edit and free transform, like we did earlier, I can then rotate the saw whichever way I'd like. I can make it smaller. I can make it look kind of funny. I can make it really big. You can kind of do whatever you like with these selection tools, but it's only going to do it to the area that you selected before. Awesome. So I covered a few items here. Is there any questions so far with the rectangle, magic wand, or quick selection tool? How do you guys feel with them? Okay. I think they're okay. Awesome. So another tool here is a tool called the object selection. And if you click on the object selection, and let me go to select and deselect to deselect my saw, object selection functions with a cross. So if you could see here, I have this little cross that's on my toolkit here after I select it. And that object selection will be the fourth one down. And now if you hold left click and drag, you'll see that this little pop-up comes up that says the cross should be inside the object. Oops. I think there's some people in the waiting room. Uh-oh. I'll get them in here. Sorry about that. Great. There's a few more folks in here. Oh my god. All right, let me get back to this. 30. All right, sorry everyone. Let's see here. And now, with the object selection tool, this is an alternative to the quick select tool. If I drag my cross to be inside the object that's right here, and I let go, you'll see that it selects the saw that's there. It's doing a bit of a bad job for that one. And again, so sometimes the tool might not be perfect for the job. So I'm just going to undo that. And let me try to select this level that's right here at my cross. And as you can see, it does a decent job of selecting the level, but you'll notice that the edges of the level are still left behind. Oh, from 3 to, oh, really for that long? I'm so sorry about that. I didn't even notice the waiting room. I have this recorded there, so I'll be able to upload it. I apologize for that, everyone. Too many things here. Okay. Great. They put that there. Awesome. So after I have these selection tools done with, there's a few of them here. And again, the main point I want to give across is that, let me try this with the quick selection here. As you'll notice, I have a bit of my levels selected, but at the very edge of this one, the black one here, if I click there, it also selects it into my selection box as well. So now with this one, I'm able to select my move object, and now I can move it. There's still a bit of it left behind, but that's a bit better than the other one. So you use the 2 rectangle and ellipse selects, and you also use the 3 different selection methods here and the magic wand selection tool. There's a few tools here that are in the middle that we haven't worked with yet, and so we can work on them now. And again, I apologize for those in the waiting room. I have this recorded so I can upload it and everyone can rewatch it from that point. Apologies for that. don't know why it didn't notify me. Awesome. So, oh, all right, there I am. With the lasso select tool, the alternate way to select your objects is by using these different lasso tools. And what these lasso tools mean is that you can kind of freehand draw the type of selection that you'd like. So if you see here, this hammer has a bit of a curvature to it that the rectangle or ellipse might not be able to get perfectly. As you can see here, I cut off a bit of the hammer. So why don't I go to my select tool that's in the lasso select, and with the lasso select there, I can go ahead and drag around the hammer, and I'm holding left click right now. And while I'm holding left click, I'm able to draw this type of pen mark that's around my hammer. And let me go back to where I started. And I can go past a little bit of where I started, it doesn't matter. And once I let go, usually you would like to stick to where you started though. As you can see, it looks a little messy at the end, but that's fine. Once I have that selected, I can use my move tool. And then once I drag this around, you'll see that it does a nice job of selecting the hammer that's there. Now you'll notice that there's two other types of selection tools here. There's a polygonal lasso select. And if I do this one, you're not so much holding down left click, but you're clicking. So if I left click here, see here, I can then get a drag, and I'm not moving my hand, or sorry, I'm not holding down the left click. I'm just moving my mouse up and down. And then I can drag this all the way down here. I can click again. I'll click again here. And then I can go up here and so forth. So this one is pretty good for maybe the level one that's down there. I can go ahead and click here and there, drag it over here and click, drag it up here and click, drag it all the ways over there and click again. And then I can drag it down a little bit to click. And then once I have it done, I can double click with my left mouse button. So 1, 2, and you'll notice that it finishes it off and it makes a selection box. And then using this selection box, once I move it with my move tool, I can move this ruler around or the level around, and I can go to edit, free transform, and then I have a way that I can transform the type of level I have. The quality of it's a little bad, I apologize again. It looked more high quality when I downloaded it, but that's fine. Let me move this down here. And then again, I can do select and deselect to deselect everything. Now, the final tool I want to show off is the magnetic lasso select. And this tool for the magnetic lasso select is a bit different than the other tools. And what it does is it actually uses some AI to determine where you want the line to go. So if you see here, this axe might be a bit hard for me to select normally, or maybe the insides of these wrench would be. So with my magnetic lasso select picked, I'm going to click at the top of this wrench here. And once I click, you'll notice that there's this type of square that pops up. And if I keep dragging it across, I'm not clicking or anything. But if you notice, it's putting in more squares. And as you can see, this line is actually curving on its own. Now, if you see here, if I keep moving, it kind of makes it jump down too fast. So what you can do to prevent it from going a route you don't want it to take is to click a lot of times and make the line follow the path that you'd like. So right now, I'm not left clicking, I'm just dragging my mouse around. And I'm going to left click at the tip of this one. And then I'm going to keep dragging my mouse, and you'll see that it's just creating the line for me as I keep going. And then I'm going to click here at the tip of the wrench. And I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to click there. And then I'm going to finish off this. And you'll notice, oh, it undid it there. It created another selection option for me to drag this wrench around. And just like the other ones, I can free transform and then drag it out there. So what's the point of doing all this, or why is there so many different tools? Well, again, the point of all these tools and why I'm showing them off is that there's around, I think, 8. There's 8 different selection tools here, and it's very different for which scenario that you would like to use them on. But again, it's up to you to determine which or what type of selection tools you use and how you'll use them. Now, let me go to the very start one more time of this image. So I'm just going to hit clear, Oh, I might not be able to go back to the very start. How about I open up this image one more time? Let me open up my tools. And now you'll notice we're back to our original image. Looks pretty nice. And what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to go to my fourth option and I'm going to hit the magic wand tool. And then I'm going to select the white one more time like I did. Now, if you remember when I hit delete, it removed all the white from my image background here. I'm going to undo that delete really quick, edit undo. And I'm going to select my magic wand again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the white and it makes it so that all my tools are selected. And I'm going to go up to select and I'm going to select this option called inverse. Now, what does inverse do? Well, it does what the name implies. It takes the selection and whatever isn't selected, it selects, and what is selected is deselected. So essentially, if the white background is selected right now, if I select inverse, you'll notice that the lines didn't change too much. But why don't I hit the delete key? Now all my tools are deleted, right? So if you could see here, before I did inverse, I deleted all my white background because the tools are the ones that are selected. If I go to select an inverse and I hit delete, now the tools are deleted because the white background is selected. So again, that tool right there, the inverse, is very helpful for maybe some type of images that have a lot of red in them or some type of colors that might be repetitive. And that's a quick way to fix up an image that you'd like. So another cool thing that we can do very quickly is why would you want to make some of these selections? So what I can do is select all the white again, and I'm just going to delete it. And what can you do with a selection that's unique? Well, why don't I very quickly grab my lasso select tool and let me drag this around the saw that's at the bottom down here so I can get a nice saw going. And now with my saw selected, I can drag it around like usual, but what else can I do? Well, I can go to, let's see here, I can go up to my edit option up here and I can hit copy. And then if I hit paste, you'll notice that there's another layer that happens here. Another quick way to do this is by pressing Control C and then Control V on your keyboard, and you'll notice that there's another layer. And what is this layer? Well, let me select it and hit my Move tool. If I move this layer up, it's actually an exact copy of my selection. So there might be some ideas turning in your head right now where you might use this. You can copy certain items that you think look cool for your capstone project in your project 1. Or excuse me, in project 2, you're going to be doing a lot of selections. But for these ones, essentially what you're doing with these selections is you're able to manipulate and copy the selections as you feel fit. Excuse me. And this one works with any of them. So if I do my quick selection and I select my saw again. Oh, and make sure that I'm on the proper layer when you're doing this. The layer work again, make sure that you're on the layer where the image resides. So for instance, if I'm on my background layer and I'm trying to drag my quick select over this saw, does everyone see how this doesn't work? I'm going to need to select layer 1 and then drag my cursor over that saw, and now my saw is selected. Let me go back to my background again though, and let me select maybe the level. Selected both of them. Maybe I'll just do the saw here. Awesome. Control C and Control V. And now I have another layer that's here. And again, it's the same effect, but I can still copy it just as well. So again, the idea here is that you can use these selection tools in any way that you'd like, and it's up to you which ones you want to use, but they're very different situations, and it's per the projects we use a few different ones. But I would say if one selection method doesn't work, try out the other selection methods as well.